The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. The soy complex had a decent start to the week on Monday. Corn and wheat largely got their way into the green, or at least in mixed territory on the session, while cattle futures found some good support, gaining back some of the losses from the end of last week. Support in the outside markets, macros, energies, you name it. So all in all, kind of a slight risk on type of day on Monday. That's what we're going to go with. At least I'm going to go with that anyway. Maybe our guest has something different to add to that. John Heinberg with Total Farm Marketing joins us here for market analysis. And John, good to catch up with you again, my friend, as we both digest the first week of college and NFL together in full swing. I know we were chatting a little football before we went on the air, but good to talk with you, and good to see a market get a little bit of strength to start off the week on Monday.
Yeah, that's a good term, a little bit of strength. I mean, we had a pretty rough day on Friday, and I would go with what you kind of said. Felt like a little bit of risk on today. You had the stock market pushing 600 points higher at one time, still holding 400-point gains here as we're recording this in terms of the equity markets and the futures there. And I think that just brought a little money flow back into all the markets today. Saw a pretty big turn off the lows on cattle today. So we'll have to see how this kind of plays out, and grains kind of followed suit. Now we do have some stories out there that we're kind of watching right now, and I think there's some of the reason we saw some strength in that soybean market. Again, we did pick up another sale of beans this morning to China, so it's good to see that they're still in the business here. Still like to see it a little bigger than that 132 number. That's pretty routine type sale overall, and so we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. Obviously, we're watching South American weather. I don't know if it's bringing some premium in here. I wouldn't be shocked if it is a little bit. Obviously, a lot of chatter about excessive dryness. Now, it is their dry season, so it's not like the market's, shocked by this, but it's a little drier than it needs to be. There's already some chatter of some delayed planting windows maybe coming. Now, we'll need to see in the next 5-6 weeks here as the wet season starts picking up. If that rains really start rolling in some of those key areas, that'll quickly come out of this market very, very quickly. But right now, maybe it's enough just because of the way things are acting, with the weather here in the United States being on the drier side, that we're rushing this crop to the finish line a little bit and maybe taking a little top off in terms of this yield, which I do think is definitely a possibility here at this time frame. So that brought a little money into that soybean market, kept corn off the ground a little bit too at the same time. There's really not a whole lot of news there. And then the wheat market as well, a little bit choppy two-sided trade. So I think those cereal grains might be just kind of treading water until we get to the report on Thursday. That bean market maybe getting a little premium just because of that demand.
Well, thinking about that report coming up on Thursday, too, I know that USDA is doing field surveys. They're going to throw that with farmer surveys and satellite data and things like that, and try to paint us a little bit of a better picture of quarter bean production. And it doesn't feel like this report is going to be a huge newsworthy item, but nonetheless, USDA reports can always bring us our fair share of surprises. As you kind of look at Monday's setup and thinking ahead to later in the week, I mean, what's the biggest thing you're going to be watching in the grains, John?
Obviously for me, we'll see what those numbers come in at. What's the trends? That's still the biggest factor. We know the yield numbers are going to be fairly good size, probably above trendline yield for corn, maybe a little more variable. I see early anticipated numbers are a little bit down from the August report. I could see that. Especially with the way some of this weather's kind of finished out here. And after some of these field tours have gotten out there, they've kind of seen that variability, that maybe that yield does come down. It's still going to be a big number, in that regard. Soybeans, this might be our big number here. Again, when they put this report together, the weather has dried out since then. So this might be a number that comes in that gets lowered as we go forward, especially if we are taking some top end off the yield. As I've said, some of the clients were, what are we doing? Are we going from 55 bushels an acre to 54 nationally? Are we going from 54 to 53 nationally with this weather? That's the part nobody really has a good grasp on right now. So we'll have to see how that plays out. So realistically, too, then, we're just going to kind of see this market probably grind here unless we get some form of news, positive or negative, maybe a big demand shot or, something on the other side of it that can continue to see the market trend lower. Little more concerned maybe about corn because early harvest is kicking in. We expect corn harvest to be about 4% complete today on the crop rating numbers and crop progress numbers. So there's some corn in the pipeline. We do have some logistical issues in the Mississippi River down in that Memphis area that we need to keep a close eye on. If that starts bringing those freight costs up, that's going to get reflected in the price on the global scale, which will unfortunately knock us out of competitiveness and limit any rallies that we have here in the short term.
I know, too, Stats Canada had a report out Monday morning. That kind of weighed on spring wheat a bit. Looked like they pegged the Canadian all wheat supplies above USDA's estimate. So I noticed that. Any thoughts on that spring wheat ledger? I'm hearing good yields in the Northern Plains in particular, but that Stats Canada number was a little bit surprising, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. It did weigh on the spring market. We get down 6-7 cents on the close here today. But, some of the quality concerns are still something I'm watching. See if we hear more talk about that. That was some of the talk here about a week or two ago, with some of the late rains that came through that area. But, yields are good, but is the quality there? And that could be something that gives that market a little bit of lift. Biggest thing still in the wheat market, still acts as the wet blanket over top of the wheat market, is just where we are in the global price structure of things. We've seen the U.S. dollar kind of turn around here in the last week or so. Also, where's that put the U.S. wheat on the competitive side of things? We're a little bit expensive. We are seeing some nice movement on the demand front here, but we need that in order to get this wheat going. So if things get a little costly, demand dries up quickly, this wheat market gets itself overvalued. So, this week, like I said, I'm not expecting a whole lot, barring any major news that pops that we're not counting on at this time frame, at least until we get the goalpost reset, with Thursday's numbers.
And one has to wonder, farmers, taking a look at some of these price levels after Monday's close, beans all in the 10s in these contracts, with September spot beans closing right at $10. Corn, has gotten back into the 4s on the board here a little bit as well. I mean, some farmers have rewarded this rally. One has to wonder, John, if others might attempt to reward it a little bit ahead of the USDA numbers, just with the unknown that's there.
Very much so. And I do think with this move, producers needed to step into the market. You got a heavy supply here. You get 20 plus cents in corn, and we pushed 70 cents in the bean market, at least through the midday on Friday. That needed to be met with some form of selling or defensive posturing, basically either puts or things of that nature. I'm doing my work more in the March contract for corn right now, just really trying to defend the carry that's in this market. I mean, you look at September to March today, you're looking at was up to 42 cents at one time today. So we got a little boost in September corn right at the end. So with that, just those are things I'm kind of keeping an eye on in terms of where we are in this marketplace. Now, we did have a couple technical barriers I'm watching closely. We failed at them last week, 410, 411 on December corn, that 1020 area on November beans. We poked back at them again today and just ran out of gas there. It seems like that's where the sellers kind of kick in and the buyers dry up. So we'll have to see how those areas kind of play out. That maybe we're just in a window now where this market wants to get itself a little bit sideways. Maybe for corn, we hit the top of the range at 410, got the bottom of the range at 385, and until we get a better picture of where we are, we grind for a while between those two numbers.
John, how about the livestock trade? Cattle found some real good support mid-session Monday, closed with some triple-digit gains. Just wondered if that was another case of we kind of danced around early and then found some decent money flow. What'd you see in the cattle trade on Monday?
Well, we put a double bottom in today. Well, off that August 21st low, we went back, retested that early in the session with some follow-through selling from way we traded last week at the close. Then the buyers stepped in, really didn't have any news. I do still think we're in the middle of a basis reversal here. We're seeing that cash market continue to trend lower, 180, 81, 82 last week. But, the futures market holding around 76, 77. So, that was an $8 spread. Now it's a $3, $4 spread. Last year in this window, we did take the futures market up over top of cash. So I'm a little, cautious that might be happening in this window. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Now, it was a pretty good response today. You get to a point you're thinking, boy, we're about ready to break through the floor, and then they snap it back for a $3 price recovery off those lows. That's a heck of a move. Now, the key is it going to be follow through, or was it consolidation? Because realistically, on that October contract, for the most part, after we set that low, we just stayed within the range of Friday. and didn't take out the previous day's high. So I think tomorrow and follow through will be key. We saw retail values pretty quiet today, 309 on the choice carcass. So we're kind of at the bottom end of the range here. We need to see that retail demand kind of hold together. Over on the hog side, I think that October hog basically fell apart technically at the end of the week. We ran it out to about 82.5, and then we reversed over. Now we're back testing some support in the upper 70s, in that 78, 79 window. So we'll have to see how things go there. But it just felt like maybe that hog market just kind of got out over its skis a little bit on that October contract. Especially considering the trend that we've been seeing in the index, and the narrowing of that gap is still there.
How about the dairy trade, John? Any notes there as we kicked off the week on Monday?
Again, here comes another big day today, pushing near limit higher, 60 cents higher on that October contract. We're back in the 23s. To me, that sounds like some pretty good value. The dairy market, though, it's just got a nice combination now. Demand's picking up. We got tighter supplies. We got tighter milk production than we've seen. So that just really puts milk in the sweet spot here, and producers need to take advantage of that. The strength that we've seen in the cattle market, over the last handful of months has showed its head in the dairy market as, that extra cow was worth quite a bit as in terms of the packing yard, and they moved them out especially when the milk prices were difficult. Well, now here's milk prices here. We've seen some expansion. The dairy industry has a real quick ability to, find a way to move things around in terms of supplies and getting milk production right back where it needs to when the margins are very, very good. So producers need to take advantage, what's on the board right now for prices, especially with the corn prices where they are.
John, good stuff as always. Final thoughts as we wrap it up here today. Anything else you want to mention or reiterate to folks?
I keep talking about staying active early. If you got corn bushels, soybean bushels, you got to move off the combine here. We're going to still feel like we're going to have a bit of a quagmire. That's my word of the fall in terms of where these bushels start hitting the pipeline, what type of pressure we could see. We may still see numbers come smaller in terms of the size of this crop, but if we're having logistics issues or we can't move this product around, that's going to get reflected in the cash market. So that really may be more of a focus to producers right now is what's going on with your cash market versus what's going on with the board.
John, if folks want to reach out to you there at Total Farm Marketing, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure, love chat with them anytime. Give me a call, 800-334-9779. Shoot me an email at johnh@totalfarmmarketing.com. And then don't forget that website of ours, totalfarmmarketing.com.
With that, John Heimberg from Total Farm Marketing. Always good to talk with you, sir. Thanks for being with us here today on Market Talk. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Have a great week, everyone.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.